welcome to the live streaming here on Saturday, September 2023. I didn't get to stream last week because last week was like insane. And this week has still been insane, but not as insane. And then the next week, the following, which is starting Tuesday, it's going to get insane again. Like it's just like gotten super busy for me, so I apologize. Last week I was I was closing the show, the 42nd Street down in Vista, and I was preparing for a table read. Am I coming on through the screen here? Let's see. Am I on? Thought I am. Why am I not? Let's turn on the screen here. Oh, that's just behind. Gotcha. No, so yeah, the last week it was just too much to try to organize the table read. We did do a table read with, we actually did 6 scripts, but we did 3. The 3 are going to present sooner or later. That will be coming out, I don't know when. I'm going to see if I can try to work on it this week, at least put something together. We'll see. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm pretty happy with the way the reads came out. I would like you guys to take a look at them and then vote on which one you want me to produce first. And then I was trying to shoot something else at that location. It didn't really quite work, so I have to figure out how to do that part. So I'm going to be doing that. I got the 60 FPS shirt for. Yeah, I know. I need to get a shirt that says that, right? I need to play on that for a little bit. 60 FPS for life. If you're a broadcaster, that is. Yeah. So this week I did like 3 different shoots involved, and one of them was the most memorable one. Was actually they embedded me in a homeless task force, and so I got to ride along with the police as they basically go around trying to deal with homelessness, and that was eye opening. Like you don't realize like what's involved with working with homeless people. It's not like it really isn't just kicking them out of the streets. They try to help them out. So the police will show up and they'll check warrants to make sure that they're not wanted for doing stuff, robbing stuff or whatever. If they do have warrants out there, then they go to jail. But if they don't have warrants, then the homeless task force has a social worker basically sits and kind of talks to them and talks about getting off because they're on drugs. That's the problem. There are most folks that are on the street habitually have like drug issues, and so they try to give them a hand and try to get them off the streets and someplace a little less dangerous for their health, a little bit better for their health. And if they refuse to do that, then they'll see you next time. That's kind of a thing. That's the kind of situation with that. So I was embedded with that. Was shooting a little for the mayor that they wanted to showcase what their efforts were in California. I know it's right, California efforts to deal with homelessness. That's something crazy. But yeah, so that was the most impactful thing I shot. But it was late at night. It was like a 4-hour shoot. So I was running around. It was not like a set up lights and stuff like that. It was like shoot the way cops shoot. The TV show Cops. So that was last week. I've got to work on that this coming week. I've got events coming up. Student of the Month programs that I shoot are gearing back up, so I might be using that for my demonstration because I wasn't crazy about the way that room looked for my demonstration for the cameras. I want to do a multicam. I was talking about strategy for multicam. I might actually just kind of use a multicam, like a real live Student of the Month. I'm torn. I don't want to necessarily use a student necessarily because rights, that kind of thing. I don't want to also put minors on camera. So I'll have to figure that out. I don't know quite what I'm going to do with that yet. Ahmed says, "How are you, bro?" I'm hanging in there. I'm pretty tired, as you can tell from my voice. And I hate coming on stream and being tired because the last thing you want to do is watch somebody just like mope and whine, right? I know we got 11 people here. Probably everyone's like bailing on. It's like, why am I want to hear? I don't want to watch them just complain about stuff. I want to see them get angry or rant about something or be entertaining. That's not. I don't know. So I'm going to be on for an hour today. I just wanted to make sure you just come back on here so I could get back in the routine of doing live streams and doing some videos and stuff like that. It'll be easy for me to just bail out and just not focus on like paying work. But I really want to keep the what's it called, the YouTube stuff. Rigel7 says the new show should be called Sleeping Around with Johnny Hess. That's a good title. I like that. I kind of like that angle. You know, if you want to be involved with the casting, that I'd be happy with that. Anyhow. So anyhow, I don't want to be too downer, but I'm probably jet in about I'll do an hour here today because I gotta go get dinner because I agreed to help out. So we closed the show 42nd Street. They opened the new show called Saturday Night Fever. Yes, that is Saturday Night Fever from the movie, the Tron Travolta movie, and I'm not playing on that, but the guys playing on it wanted to take this night off so they could do another gig. So I'm coming in to sub for one night only, and it's a rehearsal. So, and I've never played with a group before. I'm gonna step in and see how I do, playing disco music on the trumpet. That'll be very interesting. I'm scared, terrified, and excited all at the same time. And I've been practicing for the week. I think I'm okay. We'll find out tonight. And if I suck, well, guess what? I'm not coming back anyway. Just boot my ass. They'll be like, oh, thank God that John's not here anymore. He's awful. Anyhow, Ahmed was asking, I have a Sony A74, and can I use a Sigma lenses DC crop, and which problem if I used? I don't think you can. A Sigma DC cropped, is that the cropped lenses? I believe the A7 IV is a full frame. Unless you can do a 35 millimeter mode, what's going to happen is that lens is not designed to put down the light that's required to fill the entire full frame. So what you're going to have is like dark corners. In fact, it will look like you're looking through a peephole, essentially. It won't have that curvature, but the edges will severely vignette if you do it with a crop lens with a full frame sensor. So that's what you'll get if you do that. But if you have a 35 millimeter mode, I don't know if the Sony A7 IV has a 35 millimeter crop mode. If you do that, then it will be fine. So there's your answer. All right. So as far as the movies roundup go, I watched under the forced suggestion of Matthias, who's not here, I'm sure, because otherwise he'd be populating the chat with comments about, random stuff. I watched Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and I really enjoyed that. So if you are a let's say a 41-year-old male, single, no prospects of marriage, and definitely no children in your life, then you should definitely watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I'm being facetious. Obviously, the movie is excellent. I would recommend anybody watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish because it's really all about death. And they're not afraid about it. Like you thought Coco was like about death, and I did a whole video on Coco and how it's really about death. Well, this movie, Puss in Boots, is not just figuratively, it is literally about death, because there's a character in there whose name is Death, and he is chasing Puss in Boots because the Puss in Boots is on his last life, and if he mucks this up, then that's it for Puss. He's done. He was skating through his life throughout the entire movie on his 8 lives, and he was like, having fun and adventuring and swashbuckling and all that. But now he's facing his own mortality, and he's scared to death of it, literally scared to death of it. So definitely would. It's not. I mean, it's obviously a kids movie. Kids will totally get it, but the adults, it does hit home a little bit. It does hit home quite a bit, actually. I really liked it. I think Matthias was pushing me to watch it because there's a frame rate switch a lot. They do a lot of frame rate switches, which remind me a lot of anime. So it'll be, good old 24 for a while. Then it'll switch down to 12 or even 10 or 8 or something like that. And then it will during the fight scenes. So they'll slow down for the fight scenes, and then come back to 24. It's really well done. It's a big mix of styles. It's not as like a humongous stylistic swing as, say, like Spider-Man or Spider-Verse, the first Across the Spider-Verse. Like that felt like a humongous stylistic changes. Although this movie does do a lot of stylistic changing, it's more subtle in that all the styles tend to complement each other rather than draw attention to themselves. So that's my take. I love the story. The casting was great. It was really cute. and funny. Totally recommend, even if you are a single dude, to watch Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. That's my exciting, ringing review of that. Going back to the technical questions, let's see. Ahmed says, "Thanks, bro. But if I used any problems with focus? Nope, no problems at all with focus. Absolutely, the focus has absolutely no bearing on the size of the sensor or the lens coverage. In fact, there's absolutely zero change in the focus issues." Good question, though. I'll give you a good question because you never know. People don't always know these things. Does John suck? We'll find out tonight on Validating the Stars with me, John O'Hurley. I didn't see John O'Hurley. I thought no. So when I watched, it wasn't John O'Hurley at the Peter Pan Goes Wrong that I saw, but it was somebody that liked John O'Hurley. I just don't remember his name off the top of my head. Frame rates for different characters was so cool in Spider-Verse. Yeah, oh no, the thing with the animation is you start realizing you start appreciating how much a slower frame rate helps. Like it actually adds to the value. Like the last thing I want to see is high frame rate in animation. I want to see lower frame rates occasionally. You don't always want it, but sometimes being able to dip down to the low frame gives it like a crispness and allows you to appreciate. So I was getting in an argument with this one guy, and he eventually came around and realized that I was right because I know way more than he does about frame rate. Just obviously being facetious, but I'm not really, because it's like I get in arguments with people about frame rate and like, no, you haven't really thought about frame rate as much as I have. Trust me, you really haven't. So we were talking about he was saying like, I'm a depends guy. I like to crap in my pants. Just kidding. That's not what I mean. I'm a depends when it comes to frame rate. Like if I'm making a movie, if I want to see a movie about fencing, then you should use a higher frame rate. And I'm like, no, a movie about fencing should be 24 frames a second, period. End of discussion. In fact, no one, I don't even know James Cameron really still shoots 48. Maybe. It feels like that whole 48 thing with Avatar was kind of like, no one really cared, except for me. I got a few thousand views out of that for my rant about it. If you're making a movie about fencing, no, absolutely not. You're shooting 24 frames a second. If you're making a TV broadcast of the Olympic event of fencing, then absolutely 60 frames a second, because a movie is not live. And that's the biggest mistake I have with people who are not filmmakers talking about frame rate is like, we're not showing up to a fencing event and just like, okay, fence, and then we just move the camera. That's not how films work. That's not how like action films work. Action films are not like, oh, just coordinate the stunt and then we'll just film it. No. The camera and the action are interplay with one another. So if I want you to see a fencing blade fly through the air, I would show it to you. If I don't want you to see, if I want it to be a blur, I would do that. So that's what's so great about animation is, like when the animation action scenes happen, you ramp the speed, like, there's all these tricks and techniques that you do with frame rate that if we just threw it all at 60 frames a second or higher, it just loses it, and it just becomes mundane and boring. And that's the way I felt about Gemini Man. Anyhow, Kung Fu 22 FPS, love that look. Well, I guess maybe I don't think 22 FPS as in like you're watching it 22. I mean, it might have been shot in 22 so that it has a little bit of a little higher kick to it, a little speed, shoot at half speed and then double the speed. It'll kind of increase the speed. What's also a fun one to watch is if you watch the RRR. All right, if you watch RRR, the scene with the big dance scene, it's like one of my favorite scenes. I love the energy of it, and it took me a long time to like sit there and like try to figure out how they shot it, and that is overcranked as well. Yeah, that is shot probably like 18 frames a second, and then boosted to 24, and that's how you get that really tight, like the movements of the dance number. It was all just it's overcranked, and it worked, but it works. What's interesting about that is how, like, I think when I saw that first, I was comparing how the Bollywood, and okay, if I say RRR it's not, I know it's not Bollywood. Okay, I get it. Okay, please don't try to always correct me. But the Indian influence of musical movies, where the dance numbers are they're more like mad dreams, right? They're shots. One character will be dancing over here, be dancing on the table, and then it cut to the next, and he's dancing on the car. There's no continuity. It's more like what's ever on the director's mind, and that's what they go with. And it's awesome. I love it. But in Hollywood, there's a continuity editing that they tend to use, where it's more like if I'm dancing, I got to dance from here. Then I got to if I cut to another shot, I've got to explain how I get the character from here to here. All right, I've had this conversation. Like when the very first serious short film I made, I got an argument with my director of photography who said, like, I wanted the character to be on a computer typing, and then cut, and he's going to lay down on the couch. And the director and the DP's like, well, how do we get from A to B? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how he's typing and he's voiceovering this thing. It's like, oh, this girl, I love this girl so much, and then he cuts to like, and then he's lying on the couch. I don't mind the continuity jump. I mean, I understand the reason why you'd want to maintain continuity across shots. I get it, but you don't always have to do it. So you watch like something like RRR where there's no continuity at all in the dance sequence. It's just boom, 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 boom. We're all over the place, but it works. It's stylistically versus something like, I don't know, Singing in the Rain or something more American Hollywood style musical where, well, those kind of musicals are usually done in one long master take because you want to see Fred Astaire, you want to see, not Fred Astaire, but Gene Kelly dance. You want to see the other guy dance really well. So anyhow, that kind of turns me to the other, today, I was tired. It's been hot. Like today's a hot day. It's been cool the rest of the week, but today it kind of got a little steamy. I was cleaning out my house, trying to clean up my house, and then my neighbor's like, hey, can I see your kitchen? Because I had it remodeled, and I showed it, like, oh crap, my house is still a mess. But anyhow, I was tired. I was like, I'm really tired. I want to watch something where I don't have to like really pay attention. Maybe I'll drift off to sleep. So I watched the Stephen Sondheim, like a little biography kind of thing on, no, it's called 6 by Sondheim. So it was 6 songs that he was talking about, and they kind of did a little documentary about it. And I really dug that documentary. It was so cool to see Stephen Sondheim saying. Yeah, Sir Igel 7 says, you know who's really slacking the style culture front? Antarctica. Oh, I'm cold. Look at Penguin. Step it up a little, Antarctica. That is probably the most appropriate comment, I think. That is absolutely spot on. And what has Antarctica given us, really? Like March of the Penguins and Happy Feet? I mean, come on. Really? That's all you got to give us is penguin stuff. Anyhow. Where's the fine Antarctica, fine haute cuisine? You know, we don't see any Antarctic cuisine. Nothing but like popsicles. I don't apologize for that at all. Not at all, sir. Anyhow. So one thing Stephen Sondheim kind of said that really kind of hit home a little bit to me, and I think this is probably maybe a good thing for all of us to think about, is the Thing. Oh yeah, that was a thing. There you go. That was also in Antarctica. But Stephen Sondheim said something that I really appreciate, in that a lot of people in the world have gone through and had gotten a lot of great advice from Stephen Sondheim. Stephen Sondheim is a very much likes to be a teacher. He likes to teach, and he has Stephen Sondheim as a kid really grew up under being raised by Oscar Hammerstein and his family. And they lived like not really close together in Pennsylvania. And he would go over there. Basically, he was kind of like his like stepfather. And their whole family, he was like the surrogate kid. His mother and him did not have a good relationship. I mean, there's a story where his mother was going to open heart surgery, and he was like 40 at the time. And he's like, and he got this note from his mother, and it read, "Dear Stephen Sondheim, as I go, tomorrow I'll be going for open heart surgery ___. I just want you to know that you were the biggest mistake of my life." It's like, wow. All right, Stephen Sondheim, I'm sorry. That was rough. So anyhow, Stephen Sondheim, what he said was, so Oscar Hammerstein before he died, he gave Stephen Sondheim a photograph, or like a portrait photograph of him. And he asked him, like, hey, can you like inscribe it? And Oscar Hammerstein wrote, "To Stevie, my friend and teacher." And so and Oscar Hammerstein. And what it meant to Stephen Sondheim was like, you learn from your pupils. You know, like as a teacher, if you're a practitioner, you teach. It teaches you. It's kind of a kind of a big reality, especially with this film channel, Filmmaker IQ. Like, to be honest, I'm like 100 times the filmmaker I was when I started Filmmaker IQ. Like, I'm so much more like trying to teach online has made me so much more, confident in my abilities and understanding how things work. And I try to learn how things work. I try to share them with all of you, and it makes me 10 times better. Even doing my class, the class I teach, doing so allows me to kind of refocus my own. I'm teaching students how to do certain things, and it makes me better. So I don't know if you guys are out there, consider teaching the stuff that what you learned. And I think there's that old saying that those who can do and those who don't teach. Well, if that's all you do is teach, then I can see that. But if you do, you can also teach. And I think that makes you a better just teacher, person, doer, artist all together. Certain things that Stephen Sondheim, I've started to take the moniker of artist into my thought process, even though what I create, I feel like, it is commercial art, but it is still art in a sense. I understand the difference between, purely, I got to get this message out to the community because that's what the mayor wants us to tell you about pothole, how we fill potholes, and that's not necessarily like soul fulfilling art. But sometimes the things that I design that I feel like are closer to the art world that have something that means something more than just logo for State of the City. There's some other stuff. Dan Dog says, thank you for grinding and hard work on cinema. I am just a fan of movies and old Hollywood. Thank you for your passion. Well, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate joining the live stream here and saying hi. Account for comments is badly translated ancient Confucius proverb. When three people are working together, one is teacher to the other two. I take that to mean we can learn from anywhere. That's interesting. That is a very interesting quote there. I have to think about that some more. So we did, so my friend Thurman, if he does watch this, I don't know if he's watching, but we did that table read, and that table read was interesting because it was also for the actors. For them, it was like their teaching moment. That was class for them because they got a chance to like practice, and it was a little bit of teaching for me, practice for me being a director. In some ways, being a director is sort of like teaching, or at least if you're trying to convey like what it is you want from people, what it is you want from your actors. So, I'm pretty happy with the table reads. Like I said, I wanted to demonstrate how to shoot a meeting, but that room just didn't look like a meeting room, and it didn't look like a meeting enough that I feel like I need to redo that part. So I got to work on that. What's insane about the weeks ahead? Oh, it's just, so basically the State of the City for Elsinore, which is one of my clients, is coming up in a month, and we basically have to put together everything for them. Like all the videos have to be made for that. And so there's a lot there. I've got to finish up another project I did for the waste management company that I started. I've got events. I've got two student of the month programs starting up next week. Plus, I've got a city council that I do work on. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Oh, hi, John, says a random person who exists. Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, hi, John. Oh, Two Wheelin' in Tokyo says, I watch your videos so much I expect you to greet me when I arrive here. How you doing, Two Wheelin' in Tokyo? Welcome to the stream. 14 watching, 4 likes. Let's see some thumbs, people. Exactly. Get that thumbs going. This was kind of more impromptu. I didn't really advertise it, I just kind of hopped on and just say hi to you guys and just, kick the algorithm a little bit. It's like, hey, YouTube, I still exist. I'm not dead yet. You know, because I feel like YouTube, if YouTube got wind that you died, then your videos just not be recommended anymore, or they might go like crazy and recommend your videos a lot because then they make a lot of money and then they have to pay the creator because he's dead. Well, they have to pay the estate, obviously. So, looking forward to the table read. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. So what we did was we did read them 3 times each. Just the first one cold, and second one with a little bit of instruction. Third one like let's go, let's do it. So we did 3 of them, and then I wrote 3 table. I call them kitchen table dramas. I know the term now is kitchen sink, but I like the term kitchen table better, so I'm calling them kitchen table dramas. And then I wrote 3 more called like a gilded love series, like love stories that aren't really about or aren't happy and not about love. The first one I did was based on like my own reaction, my own life happened, where it's like when you basically fall for someone and like you're so afraid to tell them that it just got out of control, and then basically they abuse your friendliness, if you want to call it that, your ability, your willingness to help her out, but the thing is, you kind of do it to yourself because it's like, well, you should have just told her you're interested in her. Anyhow, so that's that story. That's the first one. The second one I did was a story that I've been listening to a lot of Damon Runyon theater. If you ever heard of Damon Runyon theater, Damon Runyon is the guy that wrote Guys and Dolls. Or not, he didn't. His stories are what Guys and Dolls is based off of. And he has a very interesting way of like having characters talk. And it's like I don't want you guys when I was telling the actors, like, don't think of it as like, hey, a New Jersey accent. Hey, forget about it. You're gonna come down to the club or not? Like, it's not Joe Pesci. It's not the New Jersey. It's a refined, like a 1920s, 30s era hustler. And he's not necessarily a gangster, although there are gangsters in Damon Runyon stories. They're more like loafers and like guys that guys that go to the horse races all the time, betting parlors and stuff like that. So I wrote a thing that I was basically kind of taken off of basically a friend of mine we're talking about, another mutual friend, and I was saying like, hey, I bet his girlfriend would love this show. He's like, oh, didn't you hear that she's not in the show anymore, or they're not going out together? And I'm like, oh, well, I guess that's the end of that. He's like, I feel sorry for it. It's like, no, I don't feel sorry for someone who's broken up a second time with a person, because that's kind of like, well, that's the reality, right? Because it's like the second time you break up, it's like, I mean, there's 2 ways it's going to go. Either they get back together again, it's like an on-off relationship. It's like, well, what are you going to do? It's a roller coaster. Or it's like, we gave it a second go and it's not right. Let's move on. So I did that, but I did it in a Damon Runyon voice, which is like, so you hear about, you hear about you hear about Tanya and Bob over there. Yeah, he ain't so good. Yeah, I hear some things about that show. It's not so good. That kind of a voice. So I had a little script about these 2 characters basically kind of talking about like, hey, you fixing an angle on that, Julian? No, Julian Appleby does not play that game. Okay, Julian Appleby. They say all's fair, love and war, but Julian Appleby believes that he will not start no wars over no love. That's for sure. So that was the kind of second script that I wrote for that. And the third script I wrote was about these 2 women. And basically, it's like an old friend. And actually, I stole this from a character that a guy in the show that I was doing in 42nd Street. This guy came in with his bombshell of a girlfriend. He's like 45, mid 40s, but she's 19, 20. All right, she like everyone's turning their heads and looking at her. Now, this guy, I've known him for a while, and I say hi to him. I don't think he knows my name. But I know his. It's the same as mine, Johnny. Basically, so I was just talking to a friend of his who happened to be gay and much older. Everyone says he calls himself grandpa. I don't think he's that old. Maybe he's like 60s or something like that. But he's talking about how they came up together and anyhow, there's a whole story behind it. And And so I wrote it as originally I was going to write it as a gay man talking to, meeting for the first time the young girl that's dating his friend, his best friend on the theater. And then changed because we were going to have two female readers. I changed it to two females. So it has a little different dynamic now because the woman, the older woman, there's a question like maybe she has a thing for this other guy, or maybe they did have a thing, and the young girl is still like so young that she's not even allowed to drink. So anyhow, so I wrote that. I thought to me that was my most commercially viable script. It's more sitcom-y, and not to say sitcom-y, but there's a little more humor in that one. But might do that as a series later. I shouldn't even tell you about that. But you guys are cool, and there's only 14 people here, so or 20. Oh my God! Oh no, there's 20 people here. I should have told that story. Just kidding. Should I make a YTP of Babylon to make it better, or is that even possible? Oh, Babylon! I hate that movie. So no. I hate that movie so much. As a man, what is my approach to writing a woman? I don't know. Like, here's the thing. I also realized that at the end of the day, there's no way of getting around the fact that Stephen Sondheim touched upon this a little bit on the musical that he was talking about. It's like, what you write is ultimately going to be yours. It's just, I'll try to write woman. See, what I do with a woman is I think of a man, and I take away accountability, responsibility, and logic. I'm sorry. I had to do that. I just had to do that. I had to quote that. I mean, it wasn't a direct quote, but I tried. No. No, what I do when I try to write women is I just try to listen to, you have experience with women. You've been around women, so you kind of have a feel for their story, how they talk, but ultimately you try to figure it out. And the thing is, though, you will never be able to write a woman the way a woman can write a woman. That's just the truth, and I just accept it. I accept it. Like I'm never going to be able to write women's stories the way a woman can write women's stories. That's okay. I don't have to. That's not my thing. You ever think that maybe this is as good as it gets? I think that a lot. I think that a lot. Have you interested in the Snow White and the House of Mouse arc on YouTube dramas that filled my pages for the last 2 weeks? Ironic it came out anti-cancel culture crowd. I don't think it's ironic because I think it's see the thing with anti-cancel culture crowd is, well, I mean, it's not so much that I don't think they're necessarily being anti-cancel culture. I don't think they're trying to cancel it. But I do think they're trying to not go see it. And I don't know. But the thing is, I feel like it's a fair assessment. Like if I see the Snow White stuff and I'm like, I don't want to see it. We're just going to boycott that. But you're boycotting it for the reasons what they're advertising. I mean, there's no question that's what they're presenting. They're presenting Snow White that way, and they're presenting the 7 magical people, not necessarily dwarves anymore, right? The magical people. That's the way they're presenting, and you can say, I don't want to see it. I'm not going to see it. I don't feel that's necessarily cancel culture. Cancel culture is like, oh, they said something completely unrelated, like something else. And, well, the Bud Light thing might be more closer to cancel culture, but I don't see that as a cancel culture issue. They're not trying to cancel Snow White. They're just saying, we don't want this. I think it's fair. I think it's totally fair. Anyhow. But have I been following? There is a point, and look, so I guess it's not too much of a surprise that I tend to favor more on the right than I am on the left. Even though the fact that I do those compass things, I end up smack dab bullseye in the middle. But I tend to feel more comfortable on the right. However, the right's pissing me off a lot. A lot lately, because I just feel like a lot of the stuff is just predictable. Oh, let's see what Critical Drinker thinks of the new Barbie movie. Oh, I could have saw that coming. I rather see an interesting take rather than well, I knew what you were going to say before, so it's kind of not really. I don't know. I like hearing critics. I like having critics surprise me sometimes with their opinion. Because rather than just like, oh yeah, it's woke. Oh, I hate it. It's woke. It's woke. I hate it. Okay. I mean, okay. It's the same. It's the same old, same old. So, is America ready for a new wave of parody movies? I would love to see some new ones, even if quality levels of epic movie. My hot take: Seltzer and Friedberg did nothing wrong. I feel we are on the cusp of. I feel like we are on the cusp of a new era of cinema. I don't know. Well, obviously the whole Writers Guild strike is going to have ripples into the future longer than we are anticipate. I think. I just hope that we can figure out a way for independents to monetize, because I feel like, well, obviously the writers strike and the actors strike are targeting the majors. They're targeting the big studios, but they're not necessarily targeting the small ones. Like A24 has, I believe they can still use writers because they agreed to all the terms. It's the big guys. So we could be seeing a shift where the big guys are going to stumble, and that opens an opportunity for the small folks like us, like you and me. I got my 20 videos. Oh, you enjoyed my take on Barbie movie? Yeah, I enjoyed, even if there's a shoe on head's boyfriend, Eudaimonia, and he's like a right wing Catholic guy. He loved it. He loved Barbie movie. He took a whole here's a right wing perspective of why Barbie movie is a great movie, and that was, to me, fascinating to watch, because that was interesting. Versus Ben Shapiro's I'm going to throw Barbie. I'm going to blow up Barbie, and it's like. If Ben Shapiro came out, he said he loved Barbie movie. Here's why. That would be interesting. But he hates Barbie movie, so who cares? I mean, what do you expect? I don't care for crap. But anyhow. So I'm hoping the independent. So the thing you have to be careful about here. You, the audience, have to be part of this. Like, you can't just sit back and just say, well, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna wait for all the independence movies to show up. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. I mean, and you guys that are here on my stream are, you're a foot in a door ahead of, because you're seeking out stuff that is not mainstream. I mean, hell, I am not Mr. Beast. Last you can tell, my haircut is way better than Mr. Beast. All right. Mr. Beast has an awful haircut. I hate his haircut. Every time I see that I'm not subscribed on, but when I go on YouTube and I'm not logged in, I'm like, man, here's Mr. Beast's photo. It's like, God, that's a stupid haircut. He's got millions of dollars. He's giving away millions of dollars, and yet he can't find a barber to give him a haircut that doesn't look just stupid. Anyhow, that's my rant on Mr. Beast's haircut. But you guys are here. You guys are searching out stuff that is a little bit less mainstream. That's what we need to do. You can't expect, I'm going to just hang out. I'm going to go on Facebook and just watch. Well, Facebook's a little different. Or Instagram or any of those. Getting back to my point. You can't just say, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to. You can't get independent movies unless you explore for them, unless you look for them. All right, that's my point. Like, don't expect them to shove down. What's his name? George Lanthimos' latest film. That one that Emma Stone's in. It's gotten all this kind of buzz because she's naked in it. It's like, well, it's Emma Stone. She's done before with Georges Lanthimos. Is that his name? With The Favorite. So and she's a grown woman who has wants to. If I were a woman, and I was attractive, and I was if a nudity was appropriate for the character, and it'd be an interesting side that you want to try to explore, I'd be down for that. But anyhow. David Armstrong said, I bet Mr. Beast did research for the best haircut to net views. He probably did, because you see that haircut. You're like, man, this guy looks horrible. This guy looks stupid. I'm gonna click on that video just to see how stupid his because he's got the haircut, right? The weird shaved on the side and then the business on top, and then that like goatee and and that color with that hair, it's just it just makes me. It's kind of like Joe Dirt, you know, like it's almost a mullet, but it's not long enough to be a mullet. Anyhow, watch out for a film called Pleasure By. Pleasure By. There you go. Pleasure By. What is that Georgios Lanthimos movie? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Movie. Not The Favorite. The one that's coming out. There it is. The Venice Film Festival. Poor Things. Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos comedy. Oh God, it's a comedy. I gotta see this now. I just want to see comedies. That's what when I did that table read. Like the one of my favorite was the one that was more sitcom-y, that with the older woman and the younger woman thing, because it had some comedic elements, even though it was still serious. It still had comedy to it. And I figure, you know what? I try a little drama. I'm just still kind of a comedy guy. That's just not necessarily like, dramedy kind of thing. You got to have a little bit of humor. So the movie I'm looking at is Poor Things. Top acting award went to 2 stars: Kaylee Spaney and the former wife of Elvis Presley in Priscilla, and Peter Skarsgård in the gritty family drama Memory. So Yorgos Lanthimos won prestigious Golden Lion Award at the Venice Film Festival on Saturday. Good for him, man. But yeah, so look for these movies. You know, it's so weird. I've been seeing these headlines saying like, "Oh, here's the best movies of the top runners for the Oscar for Best Actress." I'm like, it's summer's barely over, guys. You're already calling out who's going to be the best actress for the fall winter. I guess maybe because of the strike. I don't know. Maybe they're killing everything. But it's like, wait till January at least. Anyhow. I never account for comments. Says, I never watched a single MrBeast video, but his thumbnails at the front page for some reason it did not interest me a bit. Yeah, that's MrBeast aims for a crowd that probably most of the people here are not in that demographic, and I certainly know I'm not. What bothers me though is about MrBeast, and this is a lame-o. This is coming out of a place of jealousy. If I'm to be frankly honest, it comes completely from a place of jealousy. It's that he makes YouTubing. He makes being a YouTube content creator appealing as a vocation for young people. Does that make sense? He makes being a YouTube content creator look like a viable career option, and I'm here to tell you, it is not. I mean, there are people that are like bang out stars, and they kind of go and they actually make some money. Nowadays, not so much on YouTube. Nowadays, it's all made. The money's made from like sponsorships and stuff like that, or even going on Rumble or Twitter is starting to make people starting to make money on Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. But YouTube, man, oh man, I've seen my income cut in half in the last 4 months. And I'm not quite sure why. Like the algorithm just switched off. Used to be the weirdest thing. Maybe because it was unfair, but for 2 years, the highest viewed video of my channel was the Gemini Man video, about 24 frames of rate in Gemini Man. For some reason, for years, it was the highest viewed video, and then now it disappeared off the map. And then but then it became like Avatar, and then that disappeared off the map. Now it's like multicam streaming, which at least that's a video I intended to make for teaching. So the algorithm just decided I was no longer gonna get free views for those things, so they killed me, and then my earnings went to half, literally half. So now it's well, this is why I'm throwing myself into the corporate work stuff, is because hey, I was telling my friends I literally bill in 2 hours what I make on YouTube in a month. So it's hard to justify doing a lot for YouTube, when things are kind of so slow. But MrBeast, I think, so I know I've got friends that have kids, and their kids will say, "Hey, what do you want to do when you grow up?" "I want to be a YouTuber." It's no, you don't. No, please don't. Please don't. It's funny because, the other side of it. So, Mike Rowe of the Dirty Jobs fame. He's out there and pushing everybody hey, these dirty jobs, you can make a pretty good living doing carpentry work or something like that. And you know what they don't tell you about? I mean, sure, it sounds great. You know, you can go learn to be a forklift operator or whatever, do some blue collar job, make $70 to $100,000 a year. So it's possible. People do that. But what happens if you like get yourself hurt on the job? You know, that's the other side of things people don't talk about. It's like that's the thing I take kind of tight. I mean, yeah, we want people to go into the crafts and we want people to go into blue collar work too, but you have to kind of keep in mind that, you know, it's not like, oh, you become a carpenter, you wreck your knees for like 3 years and then you're in pain for the rest of your life and then you can't work and then you're on disability and yeah. Anyhow, that's my ranting. I'm just ranting and raving. I've got to get going here in about 10 minutes, so let's kind of make sure we cover it. If you have any questions for me, I don't know. I'm trying to. Now I have to get going because I want to get some dinner here before I go down to the show, and I want to get there 30 minutes early because I don't know what's going on, and I need to like just make sure I know I know like where everything is. And I'm not going to make a complete and utter fool of myself, although that's probably going to happen regardless. So put that there. So yeah, let's see. Account for comments there. Comment. Maybe not be politically correct, but the problem with YouTube revenue is that a large part of it goes to creators. The investors have less incentive to invest and they make less money from it. I don't think a large part goes to the creators, does it? Well, I mean, a large part does. But like a super chat, I believe, like 35% goes to YouTube. So that's, you know, that's money that you guys are giving to the creator that you're meant to give to the creator, but YouTube's taking a big chunk of it. As far as investors invest, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know what's going on with Google and all that. So I think I told the story like Google put an end to their like unlimited storage system they had for Google Drive for people that were enterprise customers, and we had an enterprise set up from long time ago. So we were kind of in that group, and then they changed the rules and they said no, you no longer have all the data you want. So like I was like, okay, crap. Like I was pissed off because like you promised me to keep the data here. Like no. So they lied about that. So I went to Dropbox. Dropbox had a whole thing like all the data you want, unlimited data. You know, all the data you need for your company. Like okay, so I moved over there. I moved over like 40 terabytes, and then what happens is you get to your limit, and they have to ask for more. So okay, I asked them for more. Like oh no, you can't have more. Like what a second, you told me unlimited. You said as much as I want. No, we got new rules in place. So I ended having cut I had 70 terabytes of data stored that was my backups and all that stuff. I moved it over to Dropbox, and then I was able to get rid of before I did that, I took 70. I got it down to like 50. I threw away a bunch of stuff that I knew I was never going to need, like COVID information stuff. Like I don't need raw footage for that. Like just get rid of it. I'll keep the final products, but I'll throw away the raw footage. So I got down to like 50 terabytes. Started moving over to Dropbox, and it stopped me about 40. And I was like, oh, I got to go through and clean it out some more. So I got it down to 40. But then Dropbox is like, well, okay, so the new rules are if you got more than like 5 terabytes pooled, then you're going to charge you $10 a month. And we'll figure all that out in the next 5 years. Like, oh, God. But then I see Google Drive is like, hey, we got an enterprise thing for as much data as you need. It's like, oh, my God, do I have to go back to Google Drive? So, so hard. It's so hard. So I don't know. Talking about YouTube here is if it's still losing a lot of money, I don't think it can support the amount of young people content grew up with. Are you talking about YouTube? So I don't know. You know, it could be one of those things where YouTube is a hidden cost or hidden revenue maker, right? Because the reason why Google owns YouTube, and this is not like inside knowledge, right, is YouTube is a search engine. YouTube, I mean, the reason why Google bought YouTube is basically as a search engine. So it's another form of search. It's another form of advertising. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, how can you say that YouTube is losing money, but it might be providing a value to Google, which is not necessarily monetary or not easily measurably monetarily measurable? It could be one of those things where it's like the fact that you have YouTube like a predominant brand in video, distribution, that essentially it pays for itself in other ways. It's not just purely how much money YouTube actually makes. It's a larger scope of things. All right. Took me ages to remember his name, but anyone remember Grade A Under A? Yeah, I remember. Oh God, Grade A Under A. He used to make those really rough sketch stuff, you know. Essentially, he's almost like a pre. He's like a pre critical drinker, like the early version, but with a little more angry and a little more with like really rough drawings. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Do you remember? Do you remember that one girl that did the drunk cooking? I think it was Drunk Kitchen or something like that. She was big for a long time. I remember watching her stuff a lot, right? And then she made a movie. I forget the name of the movie, but she played like a superhero. It's like Undergirl or something like that. And the movie was terrible. Like I tried watching it a little bit with my friend, and we're like, this is so it's terrible in the idea that it is people in LA. It's an LA cinematographer that people in LA that can't get hired for anything else, so they make this really. I mean, it looks fine, but it's just it has that stink of Hollywood, LA independent filmmaking. What do I mean by LA independent filmmaking? So there are obviously people in LA who are trying to make it. You know, so they all get to know each other, and it's ironic. I'm talking about this after watching that Stephen Sondheim musical. But anyhow, a bunch of folks in LA but they don't necessarily have resources. They don't necessarily also have talent either. So everything looks good because the technology is so good that we can basically make everything look really great. But it has such a drama club theater kid kind of vibe to it, where it's like nothing. It's not serious, not even well made. I mean, anyhow, and yeah. I understand that, but Google also made money in other ways with data and ads. The amount of operation costs that allowed YouTube to host these amount of video data does not seem manageable. Maybe what I don't know. Like the question is, what are they doing where does it all go? You know, I wonder, like if you got a video made in 2015 that has like 5 views on it, like what happens to it? Does it, maybe it goes into a vault? Where it's just like it becomes like like cold storage sort of thing, where no one's gonna probably the odds that someone's gonna call up that particular video is like near zero. So, but it might happen. So I wonder, you know, if that just goes into cold storage. Basically, if somebody dials it, like it gets like copied over, but it's just kept in like the basement. Maybe that's what's happened to all my old videos. They don't have any views. They get 1 or 2 views. Hey, there's Matthews. I don't think the dwarves in the Disney Snow Whites are offensive, but I easily see why some dwarves are resentful of it due to the fact that people in real life are not being able to separate fantasy from reality. Yeah. So they have to restrict and delete old videos somehow. I wonder if also maybe like if there's enough account inactivity that maybe it goes into a told stories like, well, this account hasn't been active in like 5 years. So the videos the videos haven't been seeing any views in 5 years. Let's just put it in the back, like delete the account. Maybe. I don't know. Thanks for chatting. We'd love to talk vintage glass and gear one of these days. Vintage glass. Yeah. Vintage. Only vintage glass I've got like Nikon still lenses. I'm not terribly into vintage glass. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm not into buying gear. I mean, well, it's not true because I've been buying a lot of gear. But I am, vintage glass is vintage glass. So, question: how long did it take you to set up the lighting for this video? I don't think I've ever seen such a good lighting in a live stream. I've been toying with it for a while. I mean, so I have this set up as a set. So I walk on and I just turn the set on and I just go for it. You know, so you're getting a pretty darn good camera shooting me, which is probably something that most live streams don't do. And you're getting a set that's designed for, a set. but it's not. I can probably do the lighting better, but it is what it is. So, but yeah, you're watching it from like a Canon C200, so that doesn't hurt. It looks really good that way. Anyhow, all right. It is closing in on 5 o'clock, so I gotta get going here, but we'll hang out for a little bit. The dwarves in Snow White are so memorable that they created a trend in Hollywood of dwarves always being a cute creature, such as Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz. Wait a second. I think Munchkin's Wizard of Oz came out before Snow White. Let's see. No, never mind. No. So Snow White was the cusp of the sound era, and then the Munchkins. But I don't think you can blame that, because Munchkins was a book long before, Snow White. Be careful, like blaming movies for certain things. Like always look at the larger picture, because I don't think dwarves being cute creatures. I don't think Munchkins are dwarves. Munchkins are just small people. That's different. They're not dwarves. Dwarves are excellent. It's very true. And then, then there's a whole thing with the dwarves of Lord of the Rings. Those guys are not cute. Well, they're kind of cute, but he's got this cute little beard. He wields an axe like a man. Truth says, though I prefer the axe-wielding type of Lord of the Rings. That's why, I was getting at there. Eisenstein and Chaplin revered Snow White a lot. I think they admire how extremely simple it is in plot and characters, especially with animation. Really doing the heavy lifting. Yeah. Like, it was like almost early. I mean, it looks almost rotoscoped, but I don't believe it was rotoscoped. I think that was drawn. Drawn from, references, obviously, but drawn that way. All right, I don't want to go. I want to hang out with you guys and talk a little more. I'll hang out for a few more minutes. We'll get going, because I gotta get them dinner. I didn't have lunch, so I've hit my midlife crisis too. Yeah, that's what that means. I'm making my own beer. Well, not beer. I'm making my own ciders and wines, and mead. Mead will be the next one I do. Do you think that Hollywood will be out of commission for a long time due to the strikes? Yes. There is no, apparently, from what I hear, is that there's probably not going to be any movement for the rest of the year. It's just going to be strike for the rest of the year. So I don't think there's any. I think it's just going to be kind of a doldrum for a while. So watch some more YouTube. Yeah, Disney had a talent for enchanting fairy tales, with dreams being the main theme for most of them. Think about like how, well, I mean, my favorite Disney of the classics is Pinocchio. Like, and Pinocchio, they did try to remake it, and then they quickly hid it underneath a curtain, so you never saw it again. But Pinocchio, the original, was just an amazing movie, and it's quite simple how it all plays out, and it's not. And if you compare it to like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, like obviously there's the source material. There's quite a bit of difference in the source material, And I think, although I like del Toro's Pinocchio, it will never be the classic the way that the Disney Pinocchio is. It's great, Pinocchio, except for the songs. The songs suck so hard in that del Toro version. She's just taking the songs out completely. They were just so awful. Anyhow. But, well, maybe that's why the Disney version is just going to be the classic, because the Disney version has the song that Disney company is now known for. Star Trek reruns. Yeah, we could watch those too. To be clear, I'm not saying Snow White is offensive, just saying to give Dinklage the benefit of the doubt. But Dinklage just very much feels like a pull the ladder up behind him kind of thing. I don't know, but sometimes maybe that's kind of taken out of context too. Ooh, Den Dog's been on a film noir kick lately. I saw your vid on Lighting for Noir. I loved it. How do you honestly feel about noir? I love noir. What was the noir that I was listening to? There's like a feeling that I kind of wanted to capture and sense, but there's a feeling of the 1940s Los Angeles noir that is sort of like a hurts so good kind of a thing. And I don't know how to describe it other than the saying that there is there's a mystery, a sexiness. There is something about the 40s LA particularly, not New York, LA. LA noir that is just I'm trying to remember what it was I was watching or listening to. It might have been the Damon Runyon, but Damon Runyon's associated with New York more than Los Angeles. Anyhow, I was just thinking about it the other night, and just like movies, kind of. Well, I mean, obviously like Chinatown, but that kind of loneliness, uh, the loneliness of L.A. noir. You know, the also the kind of the grift, the crime, the kind of something about it. I don't know. I could go on for about it for a while. It's cool. Anyhow, get a hat and trench coat. I have one. Haven't you watched you? So I got this one comment that it started off kind of cool, but then it became like a very offensive to me. Well, I do those histories of the movie studios in a noir fashion. Like that's the flavor of those, and I made 3 of them so far. Right, I made Paramount, Fox, and then 20th Century Fox. And I got one comment from a guy who's like, "I used to work for 20th Century Fox," and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm gonna like this comment." And then it's like, the only thing I don't like about presentation is you try some stupid noir detective thing, and just like started going off on me, like what the fuck, dude? What the, like, come on, give me a break. And then he's like, I did the memoirs for 20th Century Fox, but I made sure to keep Murdoch out of it. I'm like, okay, then I don't want to read your memoir about 20th Century Fox if you don't talk about freaking Murdoch. Like, you can love or hate Murdoch. I don't care what your political affiliation is with that. If you ignore Murdoch as far as like the history of 20th Century Fox, you're a fucking idiot. Like you're putting the quote unquote politics above the reality of the history. You can go fuck yourself. That's what I'm saying that in a deeply heartfelt sense. Like, go fuck yourself if you think you want to erase Murdoch from the history of 20th Century Fox. Like, literally, go and fuck yourself. Like, I don't care. Like, so the other guys are like, oh, I can't. I think William Fox would be absolutely just bemoan the fact that Rupert Murdoch took over his company. How do you know William Fox would have been a hardcore right winger? How do you know that? You don't know that shit. In fact, most of those guys were hardcore right wingers in the early century. You should see the part where you should see the videos of the Greek owner, forget his name, going off on communism. Like he would have been a Republican. Probably most of the early film owners were Republican at their time. Like, there's actually old jokes of Bob Hope where he's making fun of Democrats in some of those movies. Like Bob Hope was pretty Republican too, and Shirley Temple was a Republican, ended up being like a Republican. I forget whether she was an actual congresswoman or something like that, but she got into politics pretty hardcore. Obviously Reagan. So, don't lay your political bullshit on history, guys. Anyhow, you take Murdoch out of the equation of Fox, you're a fucking idiot. There's my rant. That's my rant for the day. Why? And also, look, as a kid, I grew up watching Fox. I did. Of all the channels, I watched Fox more than I watched ABC, NBC, or CBS. Those were like stuffy old channels. Fox was my thing. Why? Because of The Simpsons. The Simpsons was what I watched all the time. If you ask me, if we're going to sit around and talk about like comedy, because everybody grows up when they're teenagers, they always love watching Saturday Night Live, right? Saturday Night Live is your thing, right? But as a kid, I remember watching Saturday Night Live and thinking, it's okay, it's fun, I like it. Obviously, my era was Elf. What's that one guy? Colin Farrell, not Colin Farrell. Farrell. Not Colin Farrell. What the heck is his name? Farrell. You know what I'm talking about. Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, Molly Shannon, Tim Meadows, that was my crowd. But then Mad TV comes along. Mad TV on Fox. Mad TV was always edgier, always a little darker, always got like a harder cut to it than Saturday Night Live. It's always a little the rinky dinky thing. Some things I hated about Mad TV. I hated the character of Stewart. I hated Mrs. Swan. I hated the characters on Mad TV. But when Mad TV would do like a sketch, like they would be really, really good. There's a sketch out there with Ike Barinholtz and Seth Meyers. So Seth Meyers was on Mad TV first, then he moved over to Saturday Night Live, and then he got his own thing. So there's a scene, it's like an acting scene between Ike Barinholtz and Seth Meyers, and they're doing like a Shakespearean kind of a thing. And then like they just start to wrestle. End up wrestling, and it's weird, funny how it gets over to that realm. It was like very experimental sketch comedy. You would never see something that raw and that like uncomfortably looking on Saturday Night Live. You would see it on Mad TV. Anyhow, my whole point was Rupert Murdoch. I don't care what your politics are, and or what you think of Rupert Murdoch's politics. And I don't even know what Rupert Murdoch's politics are. I think he's like anti-Trump now. So, whatever that means, whatever you can't deny the fact that his kind of approach to what he did with Fox was very much like a let's just go fast and loose, let's just play, we'll see what happens. And it was kind of invigorating and interesting to see what happened there. I also love Married with Children too, another Fox staple. So anyhow, Lloyd Kaufman says Rupert Murdoch was part of the reason Toxic Avengers was canceled. That for that alone, he deserves to be forgotten. I don't know, Toxic Crusaders. Well, it is what it is. But Fox, that's why I think Rupert Murdoch is super critical. So I knew a guy that worked at Fox, and he's left wing, so he's definitely not a Republican. But he always said he was an editor. He got to kind of executive level at Fox. He would say Rupert Murdoch would come in and say hi to everybody when he'd pull up in his limo and they let him in. And he would say hi, and he had no qualms against Rupert Murdoch the person. So, I mean, all executives are assholes, right? At some level, and there's going to hear some story about how they're an asshole. That's what it takes to be an executive. You get to be kind of psychopathic in a sense. But anyhow, but yeah. There we go. Matt Stone has a very important comment I think we need to address. When you go out for breakfast, they give you 2 bacon strips. Who thinks 2 is enough? Nobody. We need more bacon, man. 100% agreed. On that note, I should probably get going. So if you do go out to Denny's and get your Grand Slam for now that Denny's Grand Slam is like $15, or maybe that's just a California thing. I prefer Waffle House, but they don't have Waffle House in California. But yeah, 2 strips is not enough. Disney did try his best in removing a lot of erotic undertones from the old tales. Sleeping Beauty should have more erotic adaptation, but not like an Anne Rice version. Well, there you go. Maybe I don't think we're going to see that in the latest reboots, though, unfortunately. Anyone watching Foundation? I watched the first season, and I enjoyed it first season, but the second season, I feel like it's a slog getting into it. Although, man, oh man, is that Emperor guy fit. I'm not saying no homo, but man, that guy is cut. That guy is seriously cut. Not in that. If you watch the first episode, that's kind of a double-edged pun there. I believe with Sleeping Beauty. Well, maybe I need to watch more Sleeping Beauty. I'm not familiar with the erotic undertones of Sleeping Beauty, honestly. Anyhow, they should move the budget from Invasion over to Foundation. The problem I have with Foundation, though, is I feel like some of the stuff is starting to get a little too far away from the source material. Like, the fun thing about Foundation, the book series, was that it was always a different story. But in order for it to work as a series, you have to have the investment. So you have to basically have these characters go through the entire arc of the series, and that just feels like it's antithesis of Foundation. Anyhow, I've been going on. I'm keep reading your comments because they're interesting and they're interesting to talk about. But I need to get going and get some dinner. So I will come back next week. I know I should be free on Saturday. I think I'll be free on Saturday. But yeah, I'm going to be doing some cleaning up in my house and my office and just getting all the stuff ready to go for this insane week that's coming up. And I'll see if I can get to that. No promises. I don't think I'll get it to this week. But those table reads will be coming out. Sooner or later, they will. I guarantee it. Anyhow. All right, guys. Enough from me. I am going to fade to black, and I will see you next time.